Welcome. The following video is a demonstration from absolutely no knowledge to a finished product on how to encrypt data and files using PGP or Pretty Good Privacy protection. This video will take you through the entire process from downloading the necessary programs, creating your own key, briefly explaining what a key is, encrypting text and encrypting files, and show you how to download someone else's public key so that only they may be able to open the files. The first step will be to download the necessary program. The address is on your screen. You can just type that into your address bar in your browser of choice and just follow along for the rest of the video. So, here we go. This is what the website should look like. And the simple command here is just to click on download. It'll scroll you down automatically. Now, you might need to download Java. You can do that on this website, but if not, just hit download. And I'm sure you know how to do the rest. I'm also going to demonstrate very briefly how to install. So you just click on the executable and follow the wizard. Now, I've already have this installed on my computer, so I'm actually not going to do it, but I'm sure you know how to install the file following the wizard. So, we now have PGP on our desktop. Over here, you see? Double click and open it, and we're ready to go. Now, the first thing I'm going to show you is my keyring. And here you can see that I've already created a key pair. And what's important to note here is that it's a pair, meaning I have a public key and a private key. The public key is the part of the encryption that I will share with other people. So I could send that to you, for example, and then you could encrypt a file or some text so that only I may open it, or at least only the person with the private key may open it. The public key is kind of like the automatically locking box that you put information in, and then only the person with the key is the person who can open that box. So now we're going to make a key pair for you. This should be unique to you. So we simply go to keyring and create PGP key. And since you're not doing anything strange, and this is going to be an official PGP key, use your real name and use your real email address. Now, the important thing is when you get to your password, you must never forget your password. Keep this safe. Do whatever you need to do. There is no recover password using this kind of encryption. And then you hit create key, and now you can see in the keyring that there is a new key pair. So now if we right click, we have a number of options, including export public key, private key, copy public key, and remove key. Export public key and copy public key to clipboard are basically the same thing. If you export, you'll get a text file. If you copy it, you'll simply have something temporarily held in the computer. So either is effective. The only time you'll want to export the private key is if you want an additional layer of security. So for example, you might export your private key to a text file and then put it on a USB stick and remove it from your computer. The only place the private key exists is on a USB. This is to give you an extra layer of security if you think for some reason someone might be able to access your private key on your computer. If they have access to your private key, they can unlock anything that's encrypted under this particular account. So we're just going to copy public key so that other people can encrypt things and send them to us securely. So go ahead and click copy public key. Now I've added some redundancy here. I open up my text editor, and this is what a public key looks like. Now this thing is supposed to be public. It doesn't need to be hidden, and in fact this is the thing you need to share with the world. So take this and send it directly to people in emails, send it as a text file. I'm going to show you that I actually include it in an uneditable Google Doc, and in my email signature is a link to this so that anyone can contact me with an encrypted message. It's up to you how you want to share it, but I do find Google Docs is an effective way to do this. So now we're going to do our very first encryption demonstration. So open up your text editor of choice. This could be text, this could be Word, this could be an email in Outlook or Gmail, and create some information. Here I'm just going to create some dummy information containing some information that I don't want put over an open network through email, potentially my credit card number. Now this could be any length, of course, from this very brief message here to 10,000 words. There's really no upper limit, at least to my knowledge. So take that, copy it, and we're going to open PGP. And we can see that there's two options, encrypt file or encrypt text. When it's simple text, just click here. Now, I have multiple keys, but we're working with the Dr. University account, so I select that one and only that one. And I put the text in and I click encrypt. And as you can see, the output is gibberish. The only person who can decrypt that is the person who holds the private key. In this case, that person is me. Now we need to decrypt the text. So that's already held in my system memory. Now, interestingly, it's already here because it is in the system memory because I copied it, but I could manually paste that in and it would make no big difference either way. And now the process is simple. I simply click decrypt. Now it's going to ask for my password. Make sure you haven't forgotten it. This is a second failsafe in order to access this information. And as you can see, the text has been returned to me as it was before I encrypted it. And so now we're going to follow a similar process for encrypting a file. I'm choosing to encrypt an Excel or a CSV, and I'm just going to create a new one as I did before, just so that I guess I don't betray any of my own data. Now, of course, there are all kinds of reasons why you might want to encrypt them. At a minimum, we have GDPR issues and internal ethics review boards. So I'm just creating some dummy data, and potentially this data has some kind, it has a name, it has a score of some kind, but the sensitive data here might be the individual's address. Now, as before, it could be a small trivial file like this with only 2 rows of data, or it could be a much larger data set. So I simply save it, and it's now on my desktop. So there are 2 easy ways to encrypt. One is through right-click, and I can just use encrypt PGP, or I can use the PGP app. In this case, I'm going to go through the right-click. I'm going to select which public key I'm going to encrypt with, in this case, the Dr. University account, and I'm going to click encrypt. A file is created in the same location as the source file. So now I have an encrypted file which can only be opened by someone who holds the Dr. University private key. So I'm now going to decrypt the file because I do hold the private key for this. It's just a matter of double clicking on it and following the prompts. Now, what's important to note is that I have already input my password once, and so it's not going to ask me for my password again. But if you close down this instance of the application, it will ask for your password again. So every time you are decrypting, you will need your password at least once. And it's as simple as that. Now, of course, there is another way to do this, and it is through the app directly. So let's do that. We'll hit decrypt file. We'll select the relevant file. And again, no password. And this time I'm selecting the option to open the file I want immediately. It's asking me whether I want to replace the original, and I'm saying yes. And as you can see, the file appears in the form it was before it was encrypted. So up to this point, I've showed you how to store text and files in an encrypted form that only you can decrypt. Now, of course, there's not much point in storing a encrypted file in the same location as the encryption key, okay? Because it's very easy for someone to, if they accessed your computer, to simply decrypt it and access that information. But there might be instances where you want to encrypt data and keep it on Dropbox or Google Drive, for example, in which case the key is stored separately and your data are more secure than they would be under other circumstances. So the question now is, how do you get someone else's public key? Well, they have to make one. So step 1, if you need to send some information securely to a colleague who doesn't know how to do this, is to send them this video, and hopefully this will explain everything they need to know. In other instances, it might be publicly available. So, for example, I showed you a Google Doc with my public key in it that is part of my email signature. So anyone can simply access that, and then if they know what they're doing with regard to encryption, encrypt text, encrypt a file, send it to me, and I'm the only one who can open it. In this instance, I have reached out to my colleague, Dr. Homer Simpson here, and I have already created a special public and private key for him. Now what I've done is I've created the public key and I've deleted the private key. This is similar to just simply not having access to the private key. Dr. Simpson has the private key on his computer, and the public key is something that I have accessed through other means. So the process here is quite simple. You can see here is the public key I've downloaded. I simply open my keyring and I import a public key. I select the file location, and that is all that is necessary. Now, when I access my keyring, you can see here that there is my personal one, there is the Dr. University, and both of those are a pair, but the Homer Simpson one is simply public, indicating that I can only encrypt and not decrypt. So the process here would be for me to, for example, create some text as I did before. And what I'm going to do is encrypt it, and I'm going to demonstrate that it can't be decrypted. So I use the same dummy information as before. I'm sending Homer Simpson my credit card number. And when I select the recipient, I select the public key I have access to, and I encrypt. Here we are, same gibberish as before. And so now I'm going to demonstrate that it can't be decrypted. Essentially, through the public key, I've put some information into an automatic locking box, and I cannot open it again. So I go to decrypt text. It was already on my system storage. It's telling me, it's giving me the warning that I can't decrypt it. And when I attempt to do the decryption, it will simply tell me that it's not possible. The information is safe. And the procedure for encrypting a file using someone else's public key is exactly as I demonstrated before, but for the sake of brevity, I'm not going to demonstrate that again. And so that's the process of everything you need to know to encrypt your data, to store it securely, to transmit it securely, to ensure that if you are moving information across an open network, the internet, your email system, you and your collaborators and colleagues can sufficiently protect yourself in order to conform to whatever requirements there are generally associated with your IRB and data protection laws. So we've covered how to download the encryption software, how to make a public and a private key, how to encrypt text and files and then decrypt them, how to import someone else's public key, keeping in mind you may need to ask your collaborators and colleagues to create one, and then how to encrypt with someone else's public key so that only they may access the information. In the future, I hope to make more videos like this surrounding the practicalities of various kinds of scientific and empirical practices. So if you are interested, like, subscribe, all of that stuff. Just never thought I'd have to say that, hey. Anyway, I hope this was a useful video for you and presented in such a way that you can extract the information easily.